Wow, Broncos country. Wow. So, this article just came out. Sean Payton recently did an interview with Jarrett Bell of USA Today. And this article absolutely eviscerates the previous coaching regime. Nathaniel Hackett and his coaching staff were absolutely put on blast here in this article as Sean Payton pinpointed exactly what went wrong for this Denver Broncos team in 2022. He said that this team was embarrassed last season, and he was not afraid to pinpoint whose fault it was, in his opinion. He said that there were 20 dirty hands last year in the blame for the Broncos' collapse and Russell Wilson's woes overall. And he strongly believes that it's going to take a lot of effort to clean it up, but it is something that can be easily cleaned up. So the first thing he tells Bell is that he's going to be pissed if this is not a playoff team. That's how close he thinks this team is to being successful and how far back the coaching staff last year held them. Payton goes on to continue winning. It's the salve for the whole organization. It makes everyone feel better. And last season, the Broncos had so many issues with Nathaniel Hackett, from his incompetence to his play calling to Russell Wilson trying to have too much influence over the offense. It was a culmination of so many problems last year. And Payton goes on to really just absolutely blast it. When Payton was asked what exactly went wrong with Russell Wilson last year, he said, "Oh man, there's so much dirt around that. There's 20 hands for what was allowed, tolerated in that freaking training room. The meeting rooms, the offense. I don't know, Hackett. A lot of people had dirt on their hands. It wasn't just Russell. He didn't just flip. He still has it. That BS that he hit a wall, shoot, they couldn't get a play in. They were 29th in the league in pre-snap penalties on both sides of the ball." This was absolutely true, man. The Broncos continuously would shoot themselves in their foot because they couldn't get a play call in on time, and it would lead to delay of games, false starts, illegal shifts, all those sloppy pre-snap penalties. And Sean Payton said clearly here that the Broncos are not going to tolerate that this season. This was a clear example of undisciplined, sloppy football, and that's something that Sean Payton despises here. You could see just in the way that he worded this, watching the Denver Broncos offense last year for Sean Payton was borderline painful. Payton goes on to continue here that he's very encouraged from what he saw from working with Wilson this offseason, and that he's very confident that Wilson still has gas in the tank. The Broncos have given Wilson all the pieces that they need for him to succeed. He's got an overall offensive line this season with the additions of Ben Powers and Mike McGlinchey. He's got a receiving core that's hopefully going to stay healthy this season. And overall, the offensive production is just going to be better around him. But at the end of the day, Russell Wilson himself is going to have to put it all together. Sean Payton acknowledged that, but he also acknowledged that the situation around Russell Wilson last year was extremely poor. And that's to put it lightly. In fact, if we come down here and we're going to talk a little bit more about that, Payton's pretty clear that he doesn't throw all of the blame on Russell Wilson for what happened last season, as well as throwing the blame on Russell Wilson for allowing his personal quarterback coach to come in and all that stuff. Apparently, that, yes, while abnormal, shouldn't be completely on Russell Wilson. This was on Nathaniel Hackett. That wasn't his fault. That was the parents who allowed it, Payton said. That's not an incrimination on him, but an incrimination on the head coach, the GM, the president, and everybody who watched it all happen. So Payton just blasted not only Nathaniel Hackett, but George Payton, Jamani Leach, Greg Penner, pretty much everybody who allowed Russell Wilson to bring in his own personal coaching staff last year. That was all on them for allowing that to happen, according to Payton. And Payton said that now a quarterback having an office, and a place to watch film is normal, but all those things get magnified when you're losing, and all that other stuff, I've never heard of it. We're not going to do that. So clearly, it's not necessarily abnormal to have an office if you're a quarterback to watch film. I've heard Tom Brady had an office when he was in Tampa Bay, but just because you have an office doesn't mean that you get to bring in your own personal coaching staff and all that stuff. You can have your own designated place to watch film, that's fine, and apparently Payton has no issue with that, but he definitely has an issue with Jake Heaps, Russell Wilson's personal quarterback coach, being in the building and conflicting with what the team is trying to teach and instill in Russell Wilson, quite frankly. Another thing Payton talked about was the overall soft culture that was allowed to fester under Nathaniel Hackett. We saw it especially during training camp last season when the practices were very, very soft in nature. We didn't see players going hard in practices at all. We barely participated in 7-on-7 drills or 1-on-1 drills with offensive line and defensive line or corners and wide receivers. We barely saw any of that last season with Nathaniel Hackett. It was almost structured like a borderline pee-wee football practice. Sean Payton says here that although the team will be playing with old school fundamentals with their practices, they're going to have to obviously keep it under the allowed CBA rules. So it's going to be old school tackle football, but tempered as well. Everything I heard about last season, we're doing the opposite, Payton said, and I love that, man. He's setting the culture of no more selfish me first mentality, and we're going to do things the hard way, but we're also going to do things the right way. During the spring, Payton had a video that hammered home the point that the 2022 season was over and done with. The video included the image of some team equipment staff riding off in the orange 2022 Ford Bronco with the rear view and side mirrors removed that had been positioned near the practice field. Also, a scene was edited from the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles where John Candy's character drove down the wrong way on a freeway, and that video included a shot of a truck driving off the cliff. That was a message, Payton said. They can only beat the blank out of you so much, but everyone's got a little stink on their hands. It's not just Russell. It was a poor offensive line. It might have been one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the NFL. That's how bad it was. You don't see a head coach go on and blast his predecessor like that, ever. I mean, Sean Payton probably has the right to do so given his record and his acumen in the NFL, but at the same time, man, wow, he goes in there and borderline personally attacks Nathaniel Hackett and the Broncos coaching staff last year. I did not believe Sean Payton was going to be that candid. He was clearly disgusted with the coaching job that we saw last year, from just the overall lack of discipline to the lack of structure, the pre-snap penalties, the poor play calling, receivers running the wrong routes, offensive linemen blowing assignments, quarterback and receivers not being on the same page. All of that sloppy stuff last season probably physically hurt Sean Payton to have to go through and evaluate all of that and watch it. And you know that that is not going to happen under Sean Payton this season. And to go out and call it one of the worst coaching jobs that he has ever seen, that goes to show just how bad it was for the Denver Broncos last year. So overall, man, it's pretty clear that Sean Payton still believes that Russell Wilson has something left in the tank and that this team has potential to be a playoff team this year. Payton said it himself. He's going to be pissed if this team doesn't make the playoffs this year. He knows that they have the talent on this roster to be successful. He knows that we are close and we have the potential to get there. We just have to be disciplined and not get in our own way, which is what the Broncos did ad nauseum last year. They got in their own way so much. From Nathaniel Hackett's 64-yard field goal in Seattle to all the bad play calling to just all the bad situational decision making, the Broncos came out of the season last year with really no chance at all, and Sean Payton is going to ensure that that does not happen this year. All right, Broncos country, how do you guys feel about this evisceration piece here from Sean Payton? I cannot believe that he had all of that to say about the previous coaching staff, but He's disgusted. That's very obvious, and he's not going to allow this crap to happen again. I'm curious about your thoughts on this, though, Broncos country. Drop those comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, as always. Be sure to leave a like on this video, as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. I would really appreciate it, guys. Those are two free and easy ways to show your support. It helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push us out to fellow members of Broncos country, just like you and me. And until next time, guys, this has been another episode of Denver Broncos Syndicate. I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.